Hi everybody, it's Gail from Gail's Bookish Things. I will try to keep this brief today. My husband's working on putting the knobs and the drawer handles back in our kitchen, so at any moment we may hear the drill. But I wanted to pop in here while he's on the phone and tell you about this ink. I used this Robert Oster Shimmer ink. It was a Grün gilt, and it was absolutely beautiful. When I started writing with it, by the way, it said Shake and Shimmer on the order notes, and then the Grün gilt. I had it in my clear lidded TWSBI Eco Broad. It was just amazement. When I swatched it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have never seen such a beautiful ink. It was just like writing with gold. And I really sensed just a lot more gold than a green gold. But I loved the swatching. Let me grab my sample papers. I've kind of clipped these all together and kind of tried to layer them. It was good on all of them. I won't go through them all, but basically I have Splendor Gel, Cosmo Air, Moleskin, Amazon Paper Stalogy, and so on. It seemed slightly, maybe a tad bit dry on the let me see, was it the Rhodia? Yeah. And it kind of reacted strangely on the Moleskin. Let me see if I can find my regular Moleskin paper. I have the chapters, and then here it is. I don't know if you can see that, but it just sort of particled out, like, makes me think of like something that's done in pixels. It wasn't staying cohesive. That was a little bit odd, so I wouldn't recommend it on that paper. But really had just a fun time sampling all those, swatching all those with the ink. The thing is, when I started to write with it on a regular writing session, so taking notes during our Sunday sermon last week, I found I didn't like note-taking with it. It started to feel dry. If you can see here, the line is much thinner. Here it was very bold and just flowed so nicely. Then it started to kind of just dry up, and I didn't like it much at all for note-taking. And so therefore I think I wouldn't like it so much in writing a letter. However, I think this would be an amazing ink for writing holiday cards, Christmas cards, anything of a celebratory nature. This would be a really beautiful ink. I learned a little lesson, or had a little lesson driven home once again. I'm more impulsive. And when I started swatching this, I was like, I'm going to buy this ink. And I'm so glad I just said, slow down, try it out for a day or two, see how it grows on you, because my first impression was, I love this, and then as I wrote with it, I'm like, I love how it looks. I didn't like how it was starting to dry. I wrote it was beautiful on certain paper, but and that was the next point. It started to clog up in my TWSBI. It was so dry at one point, I couldn't get the pen to write, and I was kind of gently, going back and forth, and I tried to dip it. I did that later. Of course, I didn't do that away from home, but it just wasn't working well for a long-term writing session. So the slowing down and not buying it was good. I think this little sample vial is quite a bit. You can see the gold in there maybe. It's such a pretty, pretty ink. I was really super impressed with it, but I just, again, didn't like it for continual writing. And because it seemed to clog up my pen, it didn't do well in my TWSBI for an extended amount of time. And then I just started after the initial swatching writing experience, it seemed like it was just running dry in the pen. I didn't think about it until now, but maybe a little tiny itty bitty drop of white lightning would have helped. I'm not sure. That'd be something to experiment with later. So I finally emptied that out of my pen, And I went also to trying the Robert Oster Chard Hickory. That is what this one is here. It has beautiful shading. And the sample swatch on Van Ness pens looked so cool. It really did look like a Chard would. I liked that quite a bit. And again, my first impression was, this is amazing. I love this ink. Then I got to thinking, well, it's kind of similar to Diamine's Ancient Copper. So I did a little itty bitty swatch of each. So this is the Chard Hickory, and this is the Ancient Copper. I loved the shading on this, and I feel like I get really great shading with Ancient Copper too. Not as much here, because I think what I did was just dipped my pen. I didn't have a pen filled with it, so it wasn't quite the same experience. But normally I'm loving this, so I probably wouldn't, for now, buy the Chard Hickory, but I did like it, and it did sample well. But like with so many other inks, the longer I wrote with it, the drier it seemed. It's very strange. And it also didn't do well on the moleskin. You can see that right there. It just kind of, you know, separates. It's very odd. And then, you know, some papers it feels nice on, and others a little more dry. Almost everything that I try on my Cosmo Air Light, I enjoy. I feel like if I like Tomoe River paper and I like the Cosmo paper pretty much equally, the deciding factor is that the Cosmo paper, for the way I write, it steadies my writing. That sounds like an ancient woman thing, but you know, some paper is like really slick and your pen just kind of goes all over. I feel like, and I've said this before, but the Cosmo kind of just almost grips it, and it gives it a creamy feel, but it gives it a little bit of holding power. I don't know how to explain it other than that. So between Tomoe River and Cosmo, that's usually the thing that I maybe like, how I feel like I can write better on the Cosmo. So blah blah blah, getting off on a tangent again, I feel like these were good, probably better on the Cosmo. Still very nice, but I do not understand why the more I write with them, the weirder they feel. Here's the Chard Hickory. It's got a little more of an orangey quality here that shows through, perhaps. Anyway, so midweek or within a couple days, I just switched because I didn't want to spend a whole week with the Grun Gilt because of the drying sensation. So I did the Chard Hickory, and I did Ackerman's Deepwater Blue, another sample vial I recently bought. I put that in my Kaweco Brass Sport. Here's the lid. I was just cleaning it out. I used it all up. I ran that little tiny converter dry. This Deepwater Blue was an excellent ink for this pen. If you've been watching along with me for a while now, you've known that I have difficulties finding a pen that works well with my two Kaweco, my Espresso and this one. But the Deepwater Blue was super good. It was a really good combination. I want to say it maybe tended to get a little lighter the longer I wrote, but I never got a strong sense of it running dry, like it couldn't keep up, or all of a sudden it's like, ew, this is just not even moving. It was pretty consistent. I really liked it. And I think Deepwater Blue is a pretty descriptive name for this because it just makes me think of the ocean. I want to say the Bering Sea, and I don't know why that comes to mind, but a cold, dark, deep ocean feel. And it also reminds me of like a darker denim. So I wrote, so far this ink has been a good match for my Kaweco, consistent flow, a pleasant blue, and it worked well for my church notes as well as writing on all these various papers. Really good swatching experience there. What did I want to say about that? Oh, I think it's just that the blue is, I think I have it swatched over here somewhere. Yeah. It's a very pretty blue. And it is just like a nice deep dark blue, and I liked that because I guess it just feels like I don't know, like a calm ink. It's like a good all-purpose ink. It would be good for anything where like maybe some of the real bright blues might be a bit much if you were rereading some study notes or something that you're writing for long term. You know, is it pleasant to go back and read it? Lots of inks I feel like are really nice to write with, but then when I go back and want to read it, it just seems like it's too bright or glaring. It reflects funny with the light. So that's something that I've started to consider is, do I like the quality of the ink when I go back and look at it? So to evaluate, let's kind of go back and forth here. But with the Aquaman Deepwater Blue, I didn't fill out this little thing here. I should have. I liked it and I would buy it. I have a few blue/teals that I have now, so I don't know if I would buy it now, but I think I may buy it next month because it works so well with my Kaweco pen, and nothing else yet has worked well with that. And I think that was the big thing. I like the blue. I like how it felt in the pen. It's different enough from the teals that I have, or the turquoisey colors, and it's a lot deeper than 54th Massachusetts, but it does kind of remind me of that ink if you could get that much darker, like a few shades deeper. So yes, I don't think I have any blue. Yeah, both of my pens are empty, but I would buy and probably will buy this one so I can use my Kaweco pens. I should probably try the sample in the Golden Espresso and see how it works in that one too. And then the Robert Oster, I put like, well, the question mark I think goes with the Chard Hickory. I did love this. It's a question mark on whether or not I would buy it because of the things I told you. Although it would be an awesome ink for a like a December daily, something like that. I don't know, maybe on a wedding invitation, or I don't know if that would be readable if it was on an envelope as well. Very beautiful ink. I don't consider it a good ink for everyday use though, but very nice experience. The Chard Hickory, I probably wouldn't buy. I loved it at first, ran dry. So here, this ink and this are the same thing. So it's shaded well, but then I said shaded well here, but then it started to just run dry. And I believe I had that in a TWSBI, which doesn't usually happen with my, yeah, it was in my TWSBI Eco. So probably wouldn't buy that one, but I liked that it was exclusive to Van S. I liked the Chard Hickory idea. I like the shading, but it's very similar to Ancient Copper. And this is not a good representation of Ancient Copper because that was just a dip. When that's in the pen and the nib is full and the feed and all that, it's a great color. So probably not, because it's so similar to this. And I really don't want to have too many inks that are too similar. We've gone into all that, so I won't go on about that. For this coming week, July 18th on, by the way, my oldest daughter's birthday is today. She's the one that just had a baby girl last February. Just thought I'd mention that. I'm trying my Aurora Purple in my TWSBI Eco Purple pen, which is what, this is why I originally bought this ink, was to have an ink that looked pretty with this. At first I was matching all my inks with my pen lid colors. Kind of gotten away from that now, but that was my original intent. I had a sample from Goulet Pens and I loved it, and then I tried writing with it down the road and didn't like it so much. So I thought I'd revisit this ink and try it out in a pretty dependable, consistent type pen for me and see how I like it. And just the only thing, when I just did this like 15 minutes ago, I wrote that it goes on really wet here, and I like this, and perhaps you can see there's a nice little bit of shading going on. Kind of subtle, but it's there. was one thing I was looking for when I first was buying some of my first inks. Excuse me. So I thought it was worth trying again. I think I may have recently tried it in my Kaweco, but actually I think that was Yamabudo. Trying the Aurora Purple again and seeing if I like it in this pen. So that I know we will determine this shortly at the end of the week. So that's all for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.